full self-driving is a big step forward for Tesla. They're clearly one of the leaders, but it looks like they're a full year or two behind Waymo. The real challenge there is you need regulatory approval to get those vehicles into the street. Waymo has approval in 5 U.S. cities already, about to add 2 more. They've gone from doing 13,000 rides per month to 150,000 rides per month, I think they're in the last year, and I think they're going to double that every few years going forward. Tesla, Cruise, the Chinese all need to kick it into a higher gear, or Waymo may end up owning the most important part of the auto industry of the future, and that's full self-driving.
We've seen average selling prices down, Steve, and you mentioned the Chinese market, of course, so that's kind of where the price cuts and the price wars started. Talk to us a little bit about their exposure into the Chinese markets, being that their biggest competitor is BYD. They are neck and neck when it comes to being number one in the market for pure EVs.
So let's take a look at those numbers. Again, Tesla sold about 465,000 units this quarter. BYD, just a fraction less than that. They're both going to be at about 1.8 million units for 2024. But the big picture is BYD is also selling another 2.3, 2.4 million of hybrids. So BYD, by all intents and purposes, is the global EV winner today. 7 of the top 10 EV companies are Chinese. The Americans, the Europeans need to really get into a higher gear if they want to be competitive long term.
Now, before we get into the whole support for Trump, I want to ask about the impact of the potential Trump tariffs. What kind of impact do you expect Tesla to see from that?
Well, we're going to have to see how this shakes out. Look, American politicians, Europeans, they want to sound tough on China, tough on foreign policy. The Americans have said we're going to have a 100% tariff. Well, that's fine, but the BYD Seagull at $10,000, even if you double the cost of that, that's still going to be a very attractive vehicle in the United States market. But the big issue the Americans need to sort through is if the Americans slap tariffs on Chinese brands, what happens when Chinese put similar tariffs on U.S. and European brands? So all things being equal, I think both sides would be better without the tariffs. We'll see how this shakes out, but it's a tricky game. I hope it's one we can avoid.
Right, and his open support for Donald Trump's campaign, Steve, and all this talk about leading this efficiency commission where he's going to be looking at cutting down spending and overall, improving the overall regulatory environment, or actually slashing regulations for that matter. How do you read into it? Because we've had some retail investors openly question Elon Musk in terms of what this means and how it's a conflict of interest with his responsibility as CEO to protect shareholder value.
Look, I think Mr. Musk is overstretched by almost any standard. It's hard for me to imagine him taking on a role in the government as well.